The very first video I wanted to do this year is on my absolute favorite camera. Of all the cameras I get to use that Sony makes, there's one that is absolutely my favorite. Let's get into it. Now up here in the front, you see the Sony A7CII, which is an amazing camera. This camera's DNA comes from the FX30s, which is what are shooting this video right now. They made the sensor for the FX30 and then they put it into a more still-oriented camera body, which is really cool. But this isn't my favorite camera. It's really cool, but it's not my favorite. But look at the difference here in size between the A7C Mark II and the A7CII. This is crop sensor, APS-C. This is full frame. Now, I'm not sure how they do it, but they do it well. And Sony just blows my mind with the size or lack of size, lack of weight, always. So the A7C is the sweet spot for so many different things. Number one, it's full frame, but it's tiny, it's small, it's a little itty bitty camera. I love the fact that you can get it in silver because the silver lasts much better than the black bodies do. Black bodies, the paint comes off. And the silver definitely is a more hardy and it's just more stable surface. And so you don't have the wear that you'd have. And because this camera lives with me more than any other, because it's around my neck or I'm walking in New York City or Chicago or whatever, it's just great. It's great. Now, the lens that I primarily use with this camera is the 42.5 G. It's a compact prime. This one has an aftermarket lens shade, which I'll put in the description below. Just also, in terms of accessories, you'll see that this is a Peak design, what they call the leash. And so it's got the quick disconnects, little orange thing. So this is a great camera strap for this camera because I don't like a big, thick, heavy camera strap for a camera that's so lightweight. It doesn't make sense. So really, the A7C Mark II, there's only one other accessory that I do use, and I don't have it here, I should. But basically, it's the A7CR grip. The A7CR is the bigger file camera that's got the sensor from the A7R5. It's the same form factor as this, but it comes with a grip that goes on the bottom. It just makes it feel better. Now, I don't always use the grip, but I often do because it just makes it feel like a more solid camera, bigger camera, whatever, and I've got big hands. So, but really that's about the only accessory that I use. I use the grip from the A7CR. I use the Peak design leash. I love this 40mm 2.5. Now, what other lenses do I use with the A7C Mark II? If I'm just absolutely wanting to go the lightest weight possible and the most versatile, I go with the 28-60 kit lens. So this is a kit lens. It has a 40.5mm filter on it. It's really small. It's kind of a pancake design. And it's got this weird thing where you have to pull it out. So this is the zoom range here. But then when you store it, you just push it like that, and now you can walk with it. So this is a really great way to go. The next lens is the 35mm 1.8. This is an FE lens. It's not very popular. I love this lens because it gives me the 35 focal length, which is really great for a lot of things, especially wedding receptions and things like that. But it doesn't have a lot of weight or size or bulk. The 35-1.4 GM is better, but this is lighter and more compact and sort of form fits better with the A7C Mark II. The next lens is very popular for me, and that's the 20-70 G lens. This is an FE full frame lens. 20mm to 70 is a great range, and so I use this lens a lot. And then finally, I really enjoy landscape photography, but I don't want to haul around a lot of heavy stuff, and so this is the 16-35 G lens. It's an f4, static aperture f4. Again, not as popular as the 24-70 GM2, but it's super lightweight. It weighs nothing and it's tiny. And so you can do a little fanny pack with a couple lenses and be off and running. There's so many reasons why the A7C Mark II is my favorite camera. And one of them is that it's a camera that I use professionally. I use it to shoot headshots all the time, which I do a lot of that, portraits, a ton of that. For a wedding, it's great because you're working all day long. Sometimes it's a 12 to 14 hour day. This thing weighs so little compared to everything else. It's just a great way to work, but I don't have to give up. I don't have to give up full frame. I can stay full frame. Again, same size of the body as the A7CII, but it's got a full frame sensor in it. It works great with all the strobes. I mean, it's just awesome. It really, really is. Now, there's one other lens here that I don't have to show you, and that's the 24-50 2.8. This is another lens. This is a G lens that I use a ton with this camera. I just loaded to a friend and I haven't gotten it back yet. If you're my friend, you know who you are. The 24-50 is a great lens. If you are thinking about buying an A7C Mark II and you really want something fast, but you want some zoom range, I would recommend the 24-50 f2.8G. It's a great lens to go all around. But for primes, man, the 40mm 2.5 compact prime is my favorite. It's great. I have another video I'll link here that you can see about my sort of special lenses, and that the 40 is the first one I talk about. But really, I think rather than keep talking about lenses and stuff like that, what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you some photographs. And they're pictures I've taken with this camera since it came out. This camera was released in August of 2023. So it's like a year and a half old or so. And I went back this morning, I dug through all my hard drives and stuff, and I found a whole bunch of photographs that I've shot with this camera. And I kind of want to show you the width and breadth of what you can do. This camera is really, really capable. And again, the sensor is out of this world. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking. Let's get right into the photographs. Here we go. These are my parents just a year and a half ago, which is crazy to think about. My mom there is putting her shoes on, which is something she could never do anymore. My mom is actually in hospice right now, 4th month in. My dad's reading the paper. He doesn't do that anymore. The A7C Mark II is a camera that I take home to Chicago. It's a very personal camera, so it's what I prefer to use for all of my photography of my family. This is my mom. I'm getting ready to take her downtown to Rush Medical in Chicago to get another brain scan to check and see if the cancer's come back. She has something called a glioblastoma, which she's beaten all the odds, but she's still alive, but just barely. So this is a kind of a cool picture of me making a portrait of my mother. This is my dad opening the door for her. We're getting ready to go out to lunch, and it's springtime, and the crocus are coming up. This is the house I grew up in on the south side of Chicago from 1975 until I left for college. My dad has declined a lot because of my mom's situation, and mostly kind of his mind doesn't process well anymore. And so this is him trying to figure out what cereal to buy, even though he only buys one kind. He's trying to figure out where it is on the shelf, and it just takes him a while longer to do stuff. He's now in memory care at this point. This is my dad falling asleep at the table with his favorite rooster coffee cup. He was obviously looking at something and fell asleep. This picture I love because my dad and I would always take him out and go for drives and stuff. He quit driving when my sister asked him to a few years ago. And so I like to get him out of the house. And he loves water, so we go to Lake Michigan a lot, different places in Indiana and near Chicago. And this is in Blue Island, where I spend a lot of time just taking pictures. And this is an important picture to me because it's one of the last times that I was able to take my dad out without a walker, because shortly after this he kept falling and needed to use a walker all the time. This is my mom after she'd just moved into her new assisted living apartment with my dad. And you can see her keys on her wrist so she doesn't lose them. And the little push button thing for help when you call for help or whatever. So this is all. And she's had some pain because this, brain cancer is not all fun and games. The A7C Mark II is so much about my mental health. This is, I love doing landscape photography, and my favorite place to do that is in the Valley of Fire State Park, which is about an hour and a half away from Las Vegas, from the Strip. And it's an incredible place. I really like to use the 16 to 35 f4 PZ-G lens because it's super lightweight and compact and small, just like the camera is. And I usually pair that with the 7200 f4G macro, which is the new 7200. It's great. So there's a lot of stuff. This is the 16 to 35 again. 16 to 35. This is the 7200. Love how the light moves in this place. It's just so special. 16 to 35. The textures of the wind is so incredible there, and it just absolutely wails on this landscape. And so you just see all this evidence of that. It's beautiful. This little rock outcropping is really tremendous. This is the 7200, I think with punch-in. So it's probably 300 millimeter f4. So, but just using the 1635 here and the 7200, that's really all I brought on this trip, and no regrets. It was great. 1635 is never thought of as a landscape lens. I think most people think of it as a video lens because it's got the ability to zoom, like on the lens, but it is a really sharp lens. I mostly shoot at f4 wide open or 5.6, but I don't really do that 11-16 thing like most people do. But I love the light in the Valley of Fire is always interesting. It's so cool when everything cooperates, where you get dark foreground and then the clouds and the blue and the setting sunlight warming everything. One of my favorite pictures, even with a rainbow. I mean, how fortunate is that? It's pretty cool. This is probably one of my favorite pictures I've ever made in the Valley of Fire. It just shows the variety of landscape that is there. All the color palette is just unbelievable. It's just breathtaking place. If you've never been there, I think it's better than Zion. I think it's better than Death Valley. I think it's better than Joshua Tree. It's just so cool. And it's all compact and really small, and you can drive around in it in a car. It's really cool. I don't just use it for landscape photography. The A7C Mark II comes with me on a variety of assignments. This is canine training for my local sheriff's office. I really like to go and support these guys. This is New York City, where I love to see details, and I just walk and shoot, and my camera of choice is always the A7C Mark II. Just looking around the city, looking at light. It's fantastic. This is definitely the 20 to 70 f4, which is a really cool lens. I mean, it does everything. Pretty neat. I love the Art Deco buildings. There's so many of them in New York City, and the colors are just phenomenal. And when you get the light working for you, and then the bird, and then the clouds, and the blue sky, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you. Just walking around New York City, see weird stuff. That building is actually curved. This is not distortion. It's just in case you were wondering. Family portraits and portraits in general, headshots. I use this camera for all that because it's just so lightweight. I mean, why would you hold a camera that weighed more than a pound if you didn't have to? It's a 33 megapixel file, so there's like nothing but real estate in that sensor. It's fantastic. This is probably the 7200 f4, I'm guessing. This is the 50mm 1.2 on the A7C Mark II, just doing portraits in higher education. This is the dean of a law school, shooting wide open with high-speed sync. More of the same. You get close to that 51.2 and magic happens, man. I'll tell you, it's pretty cool. Another law professor. This is a lawyer in Maryville, Tennessee. I was doing this for LinkedIn. And more cold and interesting stuff with icicles. I love shooting, just weather. It's kind of fun to do. This 7200 f4 macro is just an amazingly sharp lens, and the autofocus is super quick too, which is very helpful when you're shooting like flowers in the wind. Because the autofocus is so fast, you can actually use tracking autofocus instead of using manual, and you can actually nail stuff. It's pretty cool. I've always loved how beautiful the coloring, but more importantly, the light on this leaf. It's all reflecting off from the snow below. Really cool. Icicles. This is from more of a photojournalism story I did on a blues musician up in Lexington, Kentucky. This is him in his club. And this is the person taking the money at the door in the club. I just love the umbrella, the leopard coat, the purse. It's just, oh man, love it, love it, love it. This is an interesting story I did for another magazine on a community kitchen. It's a nonprofit community kitchen, so people come in. They don't have the money to have their own restaurant, and so they come here and they cook, and then they do catering, or even people come and do pickups at this place. But there can be sometimes 7 or 8 different people working for different businesses in the same kitchen. This is the woman that runs it. Back to Chicago again, where I love to work, and I love to shoot there. Doing street photography in Chicago is wonderful. Just watching the light, looking through a sculpture, and then just really being mindful of exposure. Yeah, love reflections, the older buildings and the new. It's kind of cool. Each year I teach a workshop out at the Valley of Fire and love to bring people out there and expose them to this beautiful, beautiful place. This is moonrise in the Valley of Fire. This is before the sun has hit any of the rocks yet. So the moon is the primary illumination right here. And then just a few minutes later, the moonrise again, with the red rocks being lit up by the sun, earliest part of the sunrise. There's no Photoshop here. This is like literally how it looks. It's amazing. You might notice too that I use the A7C Mark II almost all the time in 16:9, so I changed the proportion because it's landscape after all. I don't need all that foreground or sky. I just want what's in the middle. The light just draws so beautifully, and because the Valley of Fire is such a varied elevation gain and loss everywhere you go inside of it, you can track the light for an hour instead of like 15 minutes and you're done. So it's really, really a beautiful place to visit if you've never been. Again, I love the dark foreground and then the light hitting the rocks and showing all the different veins and color of the rocks. So beautiful there. So here's the early sunlight just creeping up. Now the sun's starting to hit the low parts as well. But I'm working off axis from the sun, which is what I help my workshoppers to do. 1635 again, wonderful lens. It's awesome on the A7C Mark II. This is the 7200 f4. Beautiful. I love shooting nature when you can get these animals to show up. It's really cool. Beautiful. This is the rocket going off that stranded the astronauts in the Starliner. I was down in Florida with my wife, and I always have it with me on vacation, A7C Mark II. This is a portrait I did of the local bishop in Knoxville, Tennessee. There's 2 lights on him and then balancing with the background, and I believe this is the 51.4, but it might be an 85. I can't remember. This is a local waterfall that I kind of make a motorcycle pilgrimage to 4 or 5 times a year. It's about an hour away from my house, and just seeing the different seasons there is kind of fun. This is an assignment I did for the University of Tennessee. They were doing a groundbreaking for a business building that was going to be built. You might notice that I've lit this. So I've got a light going off because when you do a big, presser inside of a tent, there's no light and then it's bright behind. And so the way you take care of that is by lighting it. And this is for sure the 20-70 f4G. This is a former TV personality who lives in Nashville. I was doing a story for them. Just a school picture, group picture of the staff and the teachers. This was a job I did for Blurb. I had to photograph their board of directors, and this is the woman who hired me to do the shoot. And then I did a little kind of walking around, just watching all the assembly of all the books. I use Blurb all the time for wedding albums and other personal projects, and it was really fun to see that factory down in Atlanta. Notice the eye autofocus is nailed. That thing is just so sharp. His eye is just perfect. And this is the 85-1.4 Mark II. I take the A7C Mark II always on my motorcycle trips out west or wherever I'm going. And this is out in Arizona. Actually, this is Colorado, now that I think about it. This is the last fall in Colorado. That's the bike I keep out west. It always in the top box. So I keep like 2 lenses in the body, A7C Mark II in that top box at all times. And I pull over all the time to take pictures. It's fun. This is the 20-70. 20-70. Yeah, it's beautiful. 20-70. This is in Arizona on U.S. Highway 191. It used to be called the Devil's Highway. And it's a spectacular section that goes from Morenci to Alpine, Arizona. And I ride this, 3-4 times a year. I can't get enough of this road. It's one of my favorite roads in the entire country. You can see maybe how much I love this camera. I just take it with me wherever I go. It's so tremendous. I just really, really, really love shooting it. Thanks so much for watching.